You know, it has been a while since I've actually done a video talking about spirituality in general, and there's a reason for that. And I'll talk about it in this video, but the main point of this video is spirituality in and of itself is a mess. Like, majorly. For anyone who does not know me, hi, I'm your local internet friend, aka Toki, and in today's video I'm just going to be specifically talking about spirituality as a whole and how it is a mess in general to navigate when you're trying to think for yourself. Now, there's going to be a major difference between spirituality as a whole and religion. Religion in and of itself, at least the way that I'm talking about it, is a sort of man-made construct to categorize and organize people as a whole, to try to make sense of what we can't, of what science hasn't been able to, or has, and they just decided to go ahead and push it aside, but that's beside the point. Spirituality in and of itself, in this context I'm using it, is just basically stuff that we can't explain with science. Now, as I've gone through this spiritual journey of mine, the main thing that I wanted to do is feel free. Free myself of the restriction of organized religion. Because having an entire group of people basically tell you that you're living your life wrong solely based off of a book that has been poorly translated, one, and possibly corrupted by a monarch just to go ahead and excuse his own choices, two, doesn't always feel good. But in order to be free spiritually, you would have to think for yourself. And as easy as that sounds, it is not. Because, at least for me, when I started off on my spiritual journey, I soaked up as much information as I possibly could like a hecking sponge. I ended up having a lot of concepts and ideas that weren't really, that sounded like it was supposed to be true and relatively logical, but also didn't really sit well with me, and I'm starting to actually organize through that and figure out the reasons as to why. When you separate your own spirituality from the construct of religion, it becomes chaotic. Because now you don't really have solid parameters of how far you want to go with something and like what to follow. And then you end up having a lot of people that want to go ahead and teach and lead, not all with pure and or good intentions. So you end up having several different opinions that are being said, most of them almost as if it's supposed to be fact. This is the main reason as to why doing your own research is very important, because you have to go ahead and figure out where the concept or the idea is coming from and like why it's supposed to work that way or why it works that way. The main thing that I actually want to get into this video, the main point that I am specifically making, is that concept of doing your own research will help you out in figuring a lot of this stuff. But also, figuring out your own inner conflicts in and of itself will help you navigate better through the mess that is spirituality. I have several different personal experiences that I would like to go ahead and share. I think I wrote down 2 just to make sure that I'm driving the idea home. First personal experience, manifesting in and of itself. I've gotten to a point now when it comes to manifesting that I'm able to I have an entire like system that goes with it, and I might speak about it later. But according to everyone, manifesting in itself is wishing for something hard enough until it comes true. In that, you're supposed to have faith and believe that the universe will handle it or give you an opportunity to reach for it. Now, there are several different problems when it comes to that explanation of how manifestation works, because we're using a lot of words that, without actual context behind them, seem to mean everything and nothing at all. The first problem that I find with it is that there's no clear idea on how it's supposed to work. At best, you have to find out how to make it work for you, and everyone's experience will be different. At worst, it's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a completely different outcome. For me specifically, intentionally trying to manifest things made my self-esteem worse because I kept on thinking that I was the problem. And until I started actually like structuring a manifestation in a manner that doesn't stress me out, I started recognizing that sometimes I'm not the problem, or I'm not the problem in the way that I would think I am. Which ends up being the main theme that I'm finding going back through a lot of my experiences as a child. And the second problem with that way of thinking about manifestation, there is essentially no room to be human. No room for cream, no room for error or for doubt. No holier than thou or thou. Because they're asking you to always believe and have faith, or be constantly doing things to work toward it, whatever you're manifesting. And the universe will reward or support you. It sounds more like behavioral control, or the whole toxic positivity thing that I ended up speaking about in that video right there. It doesn't allow it, explaining it in a way of having to keep faith doesn't allow you to go ahead and be human, because that's basically what we are in the physical realm. In this physical realm, we are human. Something that someone ended up saying that kind of sticks with me is to remember that you are spirit having a human experience, but you are also human having a spiritual experience. Basically, you're both human and spirit. You're both the higher creator and the created, the one that just is. So while, yeah, you can go ahead and, I don't know, pray to whatever higher power and have faith and stuff, but also remember that you are human. And as a human, the human experience is a bunch of flowing emotions, at best. You see, it doesn't really leave much room for freedom of choice, just instilling fear that you're not believing hard enough, whatever that means. The second piece of personal experience is the perfect blank. You can fill in the blank with things like the perfect job or the perfect partner, or because that's the two main things that people are often looking to better when they go ahead and get into spirituality in general, but witchcraft specifically. I am no different in that. And it often gives you the illusion of control and an overpowering sense of self. Basically a God complex. Now, the experience that I'm talking about in and of itself is the perfect partner trademark. Essentially, the whole twin flame thing. It's supposed to be a person whose soul is supposed to match yours identically. Now, as there's other problems that I have found when it comes to the whole twin flame thing, concept in and of itself, the first problem that I specifically wrote down was that it seems to be using the unconditional love as an incentive, promising what might never happen in a way that will also blame the person who trusted in it in the first place if it doesn't happen how they said it would. And the second problem is people tend to use it in situations where they should not. It's keeping those in in an abusive or otherwise toxic relationship in said relationship, doubling down on their fear of being alone or by themselves. I'm about to go ahead and get way too real for my own good, to be fair, but when I originally started doing the whole spirituality, witchcraft thing, one of the main things that I wanted to focus on was to manifest the perfect partner. And that's how I ended up learning about the whole twin flame concept. And within it, there's a whole bunch of like push and pull when it comes to the twin flame concept. There's also this whole thing of like the runner and the chaser. And I'm gonna say it how someone else has said it that stuck with me. If you're having to run after something, you might want to have to check why, you might have to check as why you're running after it in the first place. Why is it running away from you in the first place? But it is that second problem that gets me the most. More often than not, when a person is coming into the spiritual community, they're looking for a solution that allows them the illusion of control. Oftentimes that leads to a person being taken advantage of because they're in such a vulnerable spot. So here's a few things to keep in mind when it comes to that. One, if you have to do an entire tarot reading, tarot spread, whatever, go to a psychic, or even entertain the collective readings you end up getting on social media just to figure out how a person feels about you, that is definitely a red flag that you should be looking at in the relationship that comes to mind. Because a healthy relationship is supposed to be one where there's clear communication from both sides. And two, again, the whole push and pull. If it feels like the person is trying to pull away from you, there has to be a reason. It's not always you. Sometimes it is them. But if they're not willing to communicate with you about the reason as to why they're pulling away, again, it is time to reconsider whether you actually want to be in that relationship or not. There is something specifically when it comes to the concept of a twin flame that I don't think a lot of people actually express. And it is that it's not supposed to be that difficult on the relationship in and of itself, unless there's a lot of inner turmoil, inner conflict, just problems in general that you end up having within yourself. To put it simply, if there is a lack of communication within the relationship that you might think is a twin flame relationship, it probably isn't. More than likely it isn't. Or there's that problem for a reason, and you should really be focusing on whether there's anything within you that is feeding into the problem in and of itself. Long-winded way of saying, please do not trust all information when it comes to the twin flame concept. Even that in and of itself is basically like there's this one person that's put on this earth specifically for you. And apparently not everyone experiences the twin flame connection thing, which is even worse. Yeah, it's just a lot that I don't understand myself, which is the reason why I haven't made a video on it yet. But even besides all of those two personal experiences, there are other issues when it comes to spirituality as a whole. if you're not sticking to any particular path or religious structure, and that is things like the threefold law. Anything that you put out into the world, you're supposed to receive 3 times over. Hexes, curses, jinxes, the difference between those 3. The Wheel of the Year was an entire thing on TikTok as to whether you actually want to believe it or not. Handling things like spiritual guides, gods, goddesses, and other energetic entities that are supposed to assist you within your spiritual path. Even down to the type of things that you can or cannot use within your spiritual path. General consensus: you mess around, you must find out, and you should take accountability for your actions when it comes to it. All in all, there's 2 things that I've learned going through the spiritual path, and also like re-going through everything that I've learned within the first like 3 years of going down the spiritual path. First one that I didn't write down is nothing is set in stone. Nothing is solidified until it happens. But the second one is nothing is truly unconditional. Simply accepting things as they are, showing compassion and understanding should suffice. Proper communication is everything. Nothing can prevent conflict from coming up. I literally read that word for word, the way that I wrote it on the page. So as much as we can't really use like the scientific method to prove anything when it comes to the spiritual community, when it comes to spirituality as a whole, the best solution for the problem of spirituality is a mess is critical thinking and an academic mindset. 1, acknowledging your own points of view, biases, opinions, what have you, will help a lot. 2, instead of trying to listen in order to argue your point, listen to understand the piece of information. Working on understanding something is way better than trying to prove that it works or prove that it doesn't. Number 3, accept the fact that you will fail. Accept the fact that you are humans. You are human, and humans are innately imperfect. But that also means you get to try. That also often means you get to try again and do better. Also, accept being wrong in situations, because you just might be. Again, spirituality is not usually set in stone. There are universal truths. That is what I'm saying. There are universal truths, but not everything is a universal truth. And the last one is, the universe, much like nature, is magical and mysterious. You still might never truly understand it. From 2019? If me making a video like this 6 years into my spiritual path, journey, what have you, says anything about that. And even now, I know I'm going to end up probably making a completely different video, possibly 6 years from now, saying that there are things here that I need to like update or talk about a little bit more in depth. As I said before, nothing is set in stone when it comes to nothing is set in stone when it comes to spirituality specifically. Religion is another completely different construct in and of itself. Don't get me started. And with all that being said, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified of whenever I post. If you have any type of questions, comments, concerns, you can put all of those in the comment section down below. I have been your local internet friend, aka Toki, and this is Toki saying Toki out.